Welcome to another Dub Valley Deep Divers Breakdowns. I am your host, Erick Trickel. I'm unfortunately not joined with anybody again today. Some technical issues, scheduling just couldn't make things work. But we are back again. We've already talked about the Broncos offense versus the Jets. Now we're going to talk about the Broncos defense against the Jets a little bit because there is some very promising things here to talk about, even with the rain. Now, getting the big thing out, Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he missed some throws because of the rain, but the Broncos defense was stifling in coverage. And I think that a lot of the issues that he was having were more forced because of the Broncos than happening because of the rain. Overall, when I went and charted off the throws yesterday, or the other day, sorry, for Aaron Rodgers, I would say only about 5 of them had a clear impact because of the rain, meaning that he couldn't grip the ball right and get that good grip to sit there and place the ball properly to get put it on target. Only about 5 of those. And off the first like 5 or 6 throws that he had, they were all pretty well placed and didn't have any of those issues. And the Broncos defense broke up a couple of them, kept things from happening, were stifling in coverage again. This secondary is legit. And the way that Vance Joseph is using them, he is putting so much trust into the secondary. He is playing the highest rate of cover 0 and the highest rate of cover 1. He is putting a lot on these corners, especially Patrick Surtain the second, who has been absolutely phenomenal this season, locking up number 1 receivers week in, week out, limiting their impact and what they're doing for opposing offenses and being a true shutdown corner. Has everything been perfect with him? No, there have been some penalties. I mean, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he had a couple, and I think he had another one or two against the Seahawks to start the season. On top of that, there's some consistency issues when coming downhill against the run. But I've talked a lot on the Valley Deep Divers, the podcast, every Friday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time about the physicality of Patrick Surtain not always showing up in the running game. And while it wasn't a running game, he probably had the hardest tackle this week as the Jets put Garrett Wilson in motion and Patrick Surtain was blanketing him. He was following him wherever he went. And so they motion Garrett Wilson across the formation. They dump it off to him. And Patrick Surtain is coming across formation and downhill at the proper angle and just lays a hit on Garrett Wilson, leading to a loss of yardage. So that was a great play. Riley Moss, things haven't been perfect there either. He's allowed some catches. Teams have been trying to pick on him, but he's not letting teams punish him in coverage. He's not letting up these huge plays consistently that make it like, okay, you're getting targeted in coverage and we can't live with it. The way he's been targeted and the catches he's been giving up, you can live with. This has been one of the better performances the Broncos have had from their number 2 corner in a while now. And so it's nice to have that. He's stepping up in the face of in the face of, being targeted, in the face of in when teams are just openly trying to attack him because Patrick Stan is on the other side. And he's doing well. And then you have Ja'Quan McMillian in the slot, who's been playing phenomenal football. Would I say he's the best nickel corner in the NFL currently? No, but I think the case can be made. I think at the very least he is top 5, and I would even say argue that he is top 3. And a lot of advanced analytic statistical categories for cornerbacks, specifically working out of the slot, he is among the top. He has been playing great. And then you have the fact that you can utilize him as a blitzer effectively, and that he is such a high quality run defender. He is not afraid to lower his helmet, lower his shoulders, and mix it up against blockers, mix it up with the running game, and try to stick his helmet into the gut of the ball carrier to make the tackle. He is so ferocious working downhill. He has a chip on his shoulder. He went undrafted, and the Broncos, they stuck with him. They kept him on the practice squad. They kept developing him. And early last year, in training camp last year, Patrick Surtain made a comment about how Ja'Quan McMillian is going to be a star in the NFL, and he is on his way of that. If he can keep this play up for the rest of the season, or even a good portion of the season, obviously there's likely to be some hiccup games here. There's likely to be some down games. He's going to be getting talked about a lot more entering next season with the way he is playing. Still a lot of games left to go. We're only 4 games in, of course, of the 17-game season, 13 games left. but this is such a promising start, and it's building off of what he did last year. Last year, he was a great player in the nickel for the Broncos defense. He did so much for them that opened up so much. Games weren't perfect. He was allowing more catches, was allowing some explosive plays, but he still was opening so much for what the Vance Joseph could do as a defensive coordinator, and it's translating over to this year. He's improving his play, and Vance Joseph is able to be a lot more aggressive up front, a lot more aggressive with his play calling because of what McMillian is doing in the slot and what Sertan is doing outside. And then you add in again Moss as the other boundary corner. You can trust these guys. PJ Locke as and Brandon Jones at safety. They've been playing well. They have versatile skill sets where you can trust them as that single high cover guy. You can trust them coming downhill. You can trust them in all these ways. So I don't think the secondary has a lot of depth. Injuries are very concerning for me with the secondary, and hopefully, knock on wood, they stay healthy and are able to stay out there on the field because this secondary is on the verge of being special. And it's a young group too, which can't be understated. Defenses are extremely volatile with season to season, but keeping a young core in the secondary together could pay off dividends for the Broncos over the next 2-3 years, especially if they can figure out things with the offense and Bo Nix can develop and they can get their offense going. This defense, if they can keep it together and keep playing at this level, again, this could lead to a special team in 2 or 3 years with them. But what the secondary is allowing Van Joseph to do again is being more aggressive, which is being more aggressive up front. And it's a good thing too, because he's got some good players up front, but he's opening them up more as pass rushers because of how aggressive he can be. Zach Allen has been probably the most dominant interior defensive lineman so far this season in terms of getting after the quarterback. There have been some hiccups against the run, but he's doing well there as well. John Franklin Myers hasn't really filled out the stat sheet every single game. Granted, he's only played about 3.5 games because he got not even 3.5. He's only played about 3.25 games because he got hurt with that concussion against the Tampa Bay or against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sorry, that caused him to miss the rest of the game. But what he's doing, it's not all showing up in the stat sheet, but he's making the stats now too. We're starting to see that emerge from him. Malcolm Roach has been an absolute monster in the middle of this defensive line as a pass rusher and a run defender. DJ Jones hasn't been terrible, but Malcolm Jones should be seeing more time over him. And I think you can have a conversation about, is DJ Jones expendable on this defense? Is he a guy that you could look at trading prior to the trade deadline for added draft capital because of the play of Malcolm Roach? And Jordan Jackson, who's only seeing a limited amount of time, he's starting to show improvements as well. DJ Jones, he's got the second highest cap hit of the Broncos this year. The Broncos can save a lot of money against the salary cap this year by moving him, which they can roll over to next year where they already have a lot of salary cap money to work with, just adding a little bit more. You just have to evaluate of how much of an impact is he having in the locker room and how much of an impact is he having as part of the rotation before you move him away. And I'm not saying trade him away. It's just saying that you can have that conversation about doing so with the performance of these other guys. But on top of that, you have Jonathan Cooper, who has played himself into a very good contract after the season, whether with the Broncos or elsewhere. And in my opinion, the Broncos should be contacting his agents yesterday to get a contract extension done. And there are some good contracts out there. And one of them that was brought to me was Bryce Huff's contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, which is like 3 years, $54 million or something like that. Oh, about $15 million a year. That's what you're looking at now. And entering the season, I wouldn't have done more than $7 million on an annual basis, average per year basis, just because he hasn't shown that level. He seems to have taken his play as a pass rusher to a level that I didn't anticipate, that I don't think anybody anticipated. Nobody saw this kind of impact as a pass rusher coming, and he's still being pretty good against the run. Nick Bonito, he's come along as a pass rusher. Still need to see more. Still need to see that ability to chain moves together, develop more with him. But you also need to see him grow as a run defender. With Baron Browning out for injury, who's another player that you could talk about trading and potentially moving when he comes back, because the pass rush has been far more effective with him on injured reserve than they were the first 2 games with him as part of it. Nick Bonito has to develop as a run defender, but Jonah Ellis is really coming along and a lot quickly than you normally see from pass rushers. Big issue with him was a lack of arsenal, being able to stay healthy, run defense, and chaining moves together. We're seeing more development among his pass rush moves and adding more to his arsenal. We're seeing improvement with him being able to chain moves together to get after the quarterback, going from an inside move to countering inside. We're seeing that develop, and we're even seeing him develop as a run defender as well. I would say right now, he's probably similar to Nick Benito on that level. Neither one of them are liabilities, but they're not great against it, which is great. I mean, you want to see the growth from Jonah Ellis. You want to see it from Nick Benito. We just happen to be seeing more of it from Jonah Ellis in a quick in a short amount of time than we have Nick Benito over the last couple of years. So I think the depth there is good. And then you have DeAndre Tillman, who he's been playing pretty good football as well in the last 2 games. That makes Baron Browning expendable. So they've been doing it, killing it in the secondary. They've been killing it up front. And then to wrap it up, the linebackers. Trying to talk about this all. There was a major concern. The Jets' run offense is not good, but losing Alex Singleton, who was one of the better run defenders on this Broncos defense, that was a concern. What they were going to do to make up for that, but Justin Chenard stepped in beautifully, had the sack to start the game. Out of the first 10 snaps, he had about 6 impact plays, and he carried it all game long. He did really well in coverage and was getting proper depth in his zone drops, reading plays, sticking with guys when he had to cover somebody one-on-one or got caught or was sticking with them through his zone. Cody Barton, he did really well against the run against the New York Jets. He had a solid game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coverage still seems to be an issue. He's just not getting proper depth in his drops, in his zone coverages, and the New York Jets were able to exploit that a little bit. So if you can see that improve, then this defense can get even better. And it's kind of a shame because the way this defense has played, and again, it's been a small sample size, this has been a Super Bowl caliber defense. They have been playing at a level that you could sit there and watch play and be like, that team has a legit shot at a Super Bowl. The issue is the offense has not yet met their side of the bargain for it. And it's kind of sad that this talented defense, performing way above expectations, is playing at that level, and it's currently being wasted by the offense. So it puts pressure on the offense to start getting things together, because this is a young defense, yes, but you do not want to waste prime years of such a talented defense with an offense that can't get things together. So hopefully Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and the rest of the Broncos offense figure it out. They can meet their end of the bargain, because if that offense can get going and this defense can play consistently to where it is, they have a legit shot at a playoff spot. I don't think they'll make a Super Bowl run unless the offense really comes out hot and just flips things, because this has been one of the worst offenses in the NFL through 4 weeks. So they have to completely flip the script. And I do think that the defense is also going to regress to the mean a little bit over as the season goes on. Hot start, but we're going to face some offenses that will challenge them in different ways, and that might see them drop a little bit. I still think at the end of the season that they are on the verge of being a top 10 unit at the very least this season in a lot of key advanced analytical data points that you look at for defenses. A lot of promise with this defense. Got to keep them growing and got to keep them together. And there are some impending free agents on this defense, and there are some guys only on 1 or 2 year or only with, on the final year of the deal, or have one more year left after this coming up for extension as well. So hopefully the Broncos can keep that in place and draft well and sign well to replace the guys that need to. Then you also have the factor of Vance Joseph, who is on his way to being a hot candidate for a head coaching position. If not after this season, then probably next season. But of course, things have to continue. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for me today. I want to thank you all for watching and tuning in. You guys can help us out so much here on YouTube by leaving a like, subscribing, and leaving a comment down below. It can be a comment, it can be a question, it can be a topic idea that myself or someone and I can sit there and talk about and break down in a different video for you guys. I'm really enjoying doing these videos, and so far the reactions and have been extremely positive. So I appreciate that, guys, a lot. But until the next video, you guys can find me on Twitter at Erick Trickel. You can follow Mile High Huddle on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, or twitter.com/Mile High Huddle, or at Mile High Huddle on Twitter or X, whichever you want to call it. And you can get access to all of our written content there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it happens to be at the time you guys are watching this. Hopefully, the Broncos can go out there and be a stifling defense against the Las Vegas Raiders and get their first win in a while against the hated Raiders. But thank you guys for watching. Again, have a wonderful night, evening, day, morning, whatever it happens to be when you're watching this. And as always, go Broncos.